not working. What up, Underworld Ministry? We're back
for another week.
We are. And we're still going with the spooky season. Spooky. It's not spooky season yet. It's almost. It's spooky season
Dark
all year.
Season.
But it's 100 points if you know what this is from. No? Anybody?
I know what it's from.
Write in the comments if you guys know what this shirt's from. Don't say it. In the comments. Anyways, we're going to stick with our viewers' discretion advised episodes. I think this is our last one for this season a little bit, and then we'll get into a little darker
Take a break
again.
for the dark. Give you guys a little break.
But we have a very special one for you guys next week.
This is one you've been talking about forever.
It is. I'm not going to tell you what it is or where it is. All I'm going to tell you is that we will be with another paranormal team. While they do a walkthrough in a location, we might be doing this a couple virtual investigation again. I'm not telling you where. Not this week. Next week.
Next week.
We gotta soup them up a little bit. But this week, if you guys see the title,
sure you do. That's why you're here.
That's why I'd be here.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah, good. It's a good thing we're all here. But
go ahead and bring on our guest.
This is our guest this week, guys.
I'll let you press the button this week.
Yes. This is a new good friend of Underworld Ministry. He is a tour guide, a historian tour guide, and he's a paranormal investigator in Eloise. This is our new good friend Adam from Eloise Asylum.
Welcome.
What's going on?
Hey, Chris. Hey, Sarah.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah,
how you doing?
Nice to see you too. I'm doing great.
Finally have you on.
I know. I know. I said this last week to in Copperhead for Trans Allegheny. Man, I've been trying to get hold of you guys for almost a year to do this.
Yeah.
You've been trying to get a hold of Eloise for a year?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right. Wow.
I'm glad you guys are here finally. I hope I got that right. You are a historian and an investigator at Eloise, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I've been with Eloise for, I think this will be my 4th year now. And I started as a paranormal investigator there, and then I kind of moved over to the history side of things as well. I had just figured that, to be a good paranormal investigator, I had to have a good understanding of the history. I feel like paranormal activity and history kind of go hand in hand. So
absolutely,
paranormal is my passion. That's my love. That's what brought me into Eloise. And just to be a more skilled investigator, I wanted to start learning more about the history of the place, and I kind of ended up in their history department as well. So, but I think it helps makes me well-rounded.
Right. Yeah, that's what we were just talking about. I don't hunt ghosts; I hunt history.
I do both.
But that's what I was saying. I love the history of these places. That's what I'm there for the ghosts for sure, 100%.
I mean,
I'm a paranormal junkie, but I love the history of these.
You can't understand the ghosts there without understanding the history and why they're there.
Yeah,
that's very true. Yeah.
But back to viewers' discretion, there might be a couple conversations that we have that are not so suitable for children.
Keep in mind that this was a very dark place where a lot of bad things happen.
A lot of good things happen there as well, too.
Yeah. But
we talk about the good with the bad.
It was. Oh, I got my notes. My phone went off. It was operated at 1839 to early
1839
to 1982.
Starting out as a poorhouse and farm, it eventually developed into an asylum, sanatorium, and hospital. In 1832, it was called Wayne County Poorhouse.
Mm-hmm.
In 1872, it was the Wayne County Almshouse.
So what do you know any history about before it was asylum, when it was a poorhouse and all that? Do you have any history of that part of the building?
I do. You know, Eloise has been around for a long time. We actually just celebrated our 193rd year anniversary. So there's a lot of history. There's a lot of dates. There's a lot of people. But you're right. It actually started on March 8th, 1832 in Hamtramck, at the corner of Gratiot and Mount Elliott. I think that's part of Detroit now. But that is when they established by a vote of the people the poorhouse. And it stayed in that location for a couple of years. And eventually it just kind of became kind of run down and dilapidated. And then they had moved out to our current location. At the time, it was called Nankin Township, but now known as Westland, Michigan. And from there, the facility just grew and expanded, and it was one of the largest medical complexes in the country during its peak.
Now, when it was a poor farm and everything, was it the same brick building as it is today, or was it?
No. So when it first started in Hamtramck in 1832, it was just a wood structure.
Okay.
And that wood structure was torn down a long, long time ago. But they were only in that location for just a couple of years. You know, during that time, there was a couple of cholera epidemics in Michigan at that time, and in 1833, 1834, there was another cholera epidemic that had swept through Detroit, and their population had skyrocketed. And they just weren't able to keep up with the maintenance and all of that kind of stuff. And the building became dilapidated really, really quick. And they had moved out to Nankin Township, now known as Westland, Michigan, and they bought 280 acres from the Colbert family. And on that building was the Black Horse Tavern, and it was a stage. What do they call that? A stagecoach stop. It was between Chicago and Detroit on Michigan Avenue. At the time, it was called the Chicago Road, which is actually one of the oldest human transverse roads in the state. It was a trail for Native Americans, and now it's known as Michigan Avenue. But they bought that farm, and the original tavern, the Black Horse Tavern that sat on that property, they turned into the keeper's house, and then they had built another structure right close to it. Which was the poorhouse at the time.
Right.
So that's what it was originally. But both of those wooden structures, I mean, we're talking almost 200 years ago. Those things are long gone now.
Right.
The brick building that most people kind of think of, like when somebody says Eloise Asylum, they picture this brick building. I think it was the one that you had on your introduction. Yes, sir. Yep, that's it right there. That is more formally known as the D building, or the K. Beard building. And that building was built in 1932. And it was an administrative building and a psychiatric building. And they did psychiatric care. Yep, that's one of the original signs. That's an old photograph. Over on the right, you can see the William J. Seymour General Medical Facility or General Hospital. That was torn down 1960s, circa 1960s sometime. The William J. Seymour Hospital was torn down. But yeah, they did psychiatric care there for a long time, and their administrative offices were there until about the 1960s when they built the Wayne County General Hospital.
Got ya. And I know we've done like a lot of asylums now, state schools. We've done Penhurst. We just did Trans-Allegheny. Was that like a facility where you can just drop people off and just leave, or was there a reason you had to be committed to Eloise? Or
a lot of the people who were committed were there by state order because it was a county-run facility. which is why, like, if you were to go through historical documents, they don't refer to the patients as patients. They refer to them as inmates because they became a ward of the state. There was still a formal process somebody had to go through. It didn't matter whether they were an involuntary admission through a court order by Wayne County or if it was a voluntary admission. There was still protocol and administrative paperwork and things of that nature. And as time progressed and the years went on, the regulatory requirements for admission started tightening up. As you can imagine, close to 200 years ago, it was, I would have to think that people were just kind of just dropped off, and that's kind of where they were. But as time marched on, and we became kind of more, wanting to respect people's rights and make sure that they were there for a reason. They kind of started developing more and more kind of policy and procedure.
Right. You have any questions? Not yet.
Yeah.
Read a little more.
No.
So, what you're into the paranormal? Do you have your own paranormal team that you guys do it at the Eloise, or are you kind of just part of Eloise?
I'm part of Eloise, so I'm an employee of Eloise. I'm one of their professional investigators, and that's really most of my paranormal experience, to be honest with you. Like a lot of people that you talk to in the paranormal world, I've had experiences and kind of encounters ever since I was a little kid. So I've always kind of experienced things and kind of had some weird stuff going on. And I've always had an interest in the paranormal and spooky stuff. It's just kind of something that's always been with me. And then when I had saw that Eloise, like I said, I've been there for like 4 years now, but when I saw that they were hiring, I was like, oh man, this is me all the way.
They're actually hiring right now. I just saw that post. Oh,
they are. Yeah.
So I want to move to Detroit.
Yeah. So their poor paranormal team is an in-house team. They're all employees of Eloise. Many of them do belong to like private paranormal investigation groups where they go out and do their own stuff and with that group. But that's just not something that I do. I really just stick just with Eloise.
Right.
And that's been the bulk of my paranormal experience as far as like doing things in a professional kind of way.
Right. Yeah. How does that process work? Like you get hired just like a normal job and you kind of just do investigations with groups that come in, or you guys do it just yourself?
So when I first got hired in about 4 years ago now, the hiring process then was much different than it is now. At the time, if you wanted to have like any role, like whether it was a history guide or a paranormal investigator, you had to come in through their haunted house season and kind of prove yourself during the haunted house season. And then once you were able to demonstrate kind of like your work ethic and that you were a good employee and all that kind of stuff, then they would evaluate you to bring you up into other positions. And that's how I got in. I came in as a vet staff during the Halloween haunted house, and then I moved up to paranormal and then went to history. Whereas the hiring process now looks much different. It's a little bit more formal, like what you would see in an actual corporation or any other business. They'll do job postings and they're looking people specifically for different positions, right? And then they will look for people who have the skill sets that they want for that particular position. Like you had mentioned, they had just did a posting for the paranormal investigators, and I think we just hired I think it may have been 2 new investigators, so that will put our team at, I think we have 6-7 professional investigators there now.
That's not bad.
Yeah, and the way that it works is if a guest wanted to come through or if a customer wanted to come through and do a paranormal investigation, they would go to EloiseAsylum.com, and then they could purchase tickets for the paranormal investigations. Bless you.
Thank you.
And then we have a couple of different offerings. Our most popular offering is what we call a public tour. That is where you can come in for an investigation, but you're with the public, right? Well, I think we sell about 60 tickets in the evening. And then we'll divide them up into 4 groups of 15 and take each group to different places. So the groups, I mean, it's like 3,200 square feet. So each group of 15, they're spaced way far apart. But you are in a group of 15 other people, right? Just the public. It's going to be people that you don't know. But it's a professionally guided paranormal investigation experience. The first 4 hours of the tour will be guided, where we walk you through. We show you all the floors. We show you all the hot spots. We teach you how to use the equipment. And then the last 2 hours are what we refer to as free roam, where the guests are then allowed to go anywhere in the asylum that they want. There's limitations, right? We have some areas that are kind of off limits for safety reasons because it is abandoned.
Right,
But they pretty much get free roam for those last couple of hours, and then they can kind of go and do whatever they want. We'll let them borrow equipment. And then they also have a private investigation where you can, and the details are on the website, but that is where you can reserve the building just for you in the evening, and you're allowed to bring up to 10 people for a group for a private. But when you do that, you're guaranteed that building is yours all night long. No public people are going to be there at all. And then we also do what we refer to as a paranormal lockdown. And that's coming up in April. I'd have to look at my calendar to get the exact day, but the paranormal lockdown is a lot like a public tour, except you're there for 12 hours. It's like 8 at night to 8 in the morning, or I can't remember the exact times. The specifics are on the website, but it's a really cool experience because you're locked in the building for 12 hours, right? You're not really locked in. You can leave anytime you want. It's not Hotel California.
You're locked down like a certain person says that we don't talk about on this show.
Yeah, it's more of an overnight experience, you know. And the first time I worked one of their lockdowns or one of their overnights, it was kind of funny. We had guests come in with sleeping bags and pillows, and I said to myself, "There's no way you're going to sleep. There's just too much going on." And they didn't last but like 2 hours, and they took all their sleeping stuff back out to the car.
Oh wow!
But yeah, people are just up all night long, just exploring the building. It's a really cool experience.
That would be
that would be me.
I'd be sleeping
for sure.
It's too exciting to sleep. The ghost won't let you sleep.
That would be my first thing. You'd be like, Adam.
I'm a Florida kid. I can sleep through a hurricane.
I'd be like, Adam, take me to the most craziest spots. Let's go. Let's have an adventure.
Every floor has its house. Every floor has its hot spots.
Right. So, you being there for 4 years, I'm pretty sure you're well aware of what's going on in this building now. Is there certain areas that you don't like going to by yourself, or is it kind of just different per day?
No, I wouldn't say that there's any spot that I'm scared of or that I don't like to be alone. I'm more afraid of the living than I am the dead, to be honest with you.
I hear you on that.
Yeah. I've definitely have had some creepy experiences. I've been touched on the 3rd floor and I've been touched on the 4th floor. And, you know, I've heard stories of people say, oh, you know, I've been touched, and you hear those stories, but until it happens to you, you really don't have an appreciation of what that's like.
Yeah.
And the first time something grabbed me, I was definitely freaked out. I hightailed it out of there. I was like, yeah, I don't need to be on this floor anymore. I wouldn't say it was like a fear. It was just, it's almost hard to explain. It's like this unsettling feeling that you just kind of get in your heart, like in your spine. You're like, okay, I've had enough. But you know, I've been to that floor by myself since then. So yeah.
I've been hitting the chest so hard I couldn't breathe for like 20 minutes. So I completely understand. That was a local jail here in Florida. She's been rushed and choked in the same jail. So it's pretty much jail.
Yeah.
But what we showed we showed the buildings a little bit. I just want to show that that picture is just awesome.
It looks like a school.
Yeah,
it does look like a school.
They had schools on campus for a while. Yep, that's the that looks like that's the power plant, and that's the That looks like the bakery in front of the power plant is what that looks like. And that picture is old now because that smokestack is still there. They demolished that smokestack, and I apologize for not remembering the exact date, but 5-10 years ago they had to take that smokestack down, probably closer to a decade ago now, but the smokestack was falling apart.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say it's just not sturdy, or
yeah. So that picture, like if you go back to the previous picture,
yeah.
So this picture that we're looking at right here, like the front of the picture that's close to that chain link. Yeah, if I got my bearings right, I'm trying to figure out which way is north and south by looking at this. But that building, if I got my bearing right, that's closest to us, to the chain link fence, that is the bakery. And the bakery burned down in 2016, I think the bakery burned down. And if you go to that other picture that you were at after that, the rubble, that I believe, if I'm looking at it right, that is the bakery after the fire.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, was that just did somebody catch fire to that, or did it just naturally happen, or?
No, it was an act of arson. There was a couple of teenagers who went and burnt the place down, and they were tried. I think they both had pled guilty, and they were basically just kind of slapped on the wrist and let go. So.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
It's such a historic building, man. People just don't know the history of these places, and it makes me sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, it makes me sad too. I don't want to see any kids have their entire future ruined for some shenanigans either. So I guess there's a balance. You know, at the time they did that, our current owner, I don't even think had owned the place yet, if I'm not mistaken. So as far as these kids thought, it was just an abandoned place. Nobody owned it. There was nobody there. They were just messing around. But
got ya. So with the history of the poor farm to an asylum, was it more of like a special needs asylum like Penhurst, or was it more like a lunatic asylum like Trans Allegheny, or was it kind of both?
So they, the place had been there so long, and I'm not particularly familiar with the other two asylums that you had just mentioned. I mean, I certainly know the names, but I'm just not familiar with the history of those two places. So to do a comparison, is something I'm probably not prepared.
Penhurst was more of like a mentally challenged, like I don't want to say what they called them back then, but it was special needs type of kids, epilepsy, Down syndrome, all that stuff. And Trans Allegheny was more like lunatic, more of like the violent.
Poor farm where you could go drop your wife off if you weren't happy with her and just leave.
Yeah.
Penhurst was more if you couldn't take care of your kids, or if your kids were sick, you go take them there.
Right.
Or if your family was sick and if you couldn't afford to take care of them and you thought they were going to get treated, that's where they went. Trans Allegheny, they said they were ahead of their days. So that's where people with tuberculosis, people who had collapsed lung, people who needed hydrotherapy, they would go for actual treatment, but they were overrun, so they weren't being treated correctly and they weren't being watched properly, so the doctors were getting away with whatever they wanted to do, which was experimenting on the patients.
Right.
Yeah, I would say Eloise, as far as their psychiatric division was a mixed bag. And Eloise did a lot more than just psychiatric care. They had general medical facilities, they had infirmaries.
Oh wow.
It was the largest medical complex in the country for a long time. So we did a lot more than just psychiatric care. But the psychiatric division had, like I said, the place had started in the 1830s as a poorhouse. And at the time, there was no differentiation as far as patient housing and their quarters and where they stayed. the institution didn't have any differentiation between poor and people with a mental health condition. They just put everybody together. And then as the years and the decades went by, they recognized the need to separate these. So that's what they did. But a long time ago, we didn't have a modern understanding of mental health conditions. There was a lot of spirituality associated with different mental health conditions, and just an overall lack of understanding. Up until the 1880s, most of the buildings on Eloise, in the basement they had cells, and that's where the mentally ill were housed. And if they were particularly, violent or unruly, or their behavior wasn't able to be kind of regulated, they were just chained to a wall in the basements, and that's where they were left, and that's where they were forgotten about, because we had no idea about mental health. We had no idea how to control their behavior. We didn't know what to do with them. So that was the solution. And then in the 1880s, Dr. E.O. Bennett, who was the first, he was actually the first keeper that had a medical degree. And he wanted to actually do something to try to help these patients and provide actual treatment and care. And he removed all of the chains and actually buried all of the chains just in the earth next to whatever building they were removed from. So somewhere in camp, there's a bunch of chains buried all over the place.
Oh, man. You imagine that energy that comes off of those if you'd ever find those? Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. They're probably buried deep now, right? 150 years later, they're far down. But yeah, he was the first one to actually want to provide some sort of treatment and care to these individuals. And, once you explore the history of just not only Eloise, but the history of psychiatric care through America in general, you kind of see that evolution. And I think when we explore history, we need to do it from the lens or the view with which people experienced the world at the time, right?
Absolutely.
Like one example, like when we talk about lobotomies, from a modern perspective, we look back on lobotomies as being something that is archaic and cruel. But from their perception at the time, that was a revolutionary medical procedure that they were able to perform and actually give people some sort of quality of life, aside from being just chained or just holed up in a cell somewhere.
Right. Yeah, we were talking about. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, just as things evolve, we tend to look at some of these procedures or these interventions in the past in a negative light. But at the time, they thought they were doing a lot of good. And I think a lot of these people in their hearts, despite our modern perception, they were really trying to do something to help these people.
Yeah, back in those days, that was state of art medicine. That was yeah. That's what we were talking about last week with trans-Allegheny lobotomies and everything. They were saying that some people got lobotomies and completely changed who they were. They could draw, they could paint, they could sing, they could, like, it was just a whole brand new person. And I mean, for somebody that can't comprehend the world, can't comprehend themselves, to painting a mural, just gets one procedure.
I guess if it goes right or wrong, they're a whole different person.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's how I try to paint the history of Eloise. Now, Eloise has this reputation, like many other asylums do, of just being like a dark place where people was mistreated and And that I don't think that was necessarily the case. I mean, certainly there was incidences. Even like in my day job, I've been working healthcare for 23 years, right? So even like in my experience over the last 2+ decades of working in hospitals and doing medical care, I've seen a lot of crazy stuff, right? I've seen doctors act without integrity. I've seen medical procedures go wrong. So certainly that kind of stuff happens everywhere. And perhaps a greater number of these kinds of things occurred in the past because we didn't have the same oversight and transparency and regulatory requirements and training and understanding. So Maybe these things happen to a greater degree because there's no regulatory body overseeing things and auditing things.
Right.
But I still think it was probably the exception as opposed to the rule. And I think most of the time when these bad things happened, it was, just a lack of funding, a lack of staffing. Like Eloise, after the Great Depression, because it was a poorhouse in addition to an asylum. So during the Great Depression, our numbers shot way up and we got over bed capacity really quick. And when the patient to staffing ratio is so, kind of like undesirable. Yeah. So it just makes it hard to take care of people. And I think that's when a lot of the things started happening. So Eloise did a lot of good for a lot of people.
We have a couple pictures of some of the patients and how the hospital was back.
That's a tuberculosis. Yep. That picture is a tuberculosis tent. That looks like it's one of the open air tuberculosis tents. And most of our tuberculosis, it's either that or a pest house. And the pest house was for measles. We didn't have a big measles epidemic or problem in Michigan. So most of our pest houses went unused. But we did see a lot of tuberculosis patients. And that looks like it was a tuberculosis tent.
Yeah.
And most of the time when we got our tuberculosis patients, because we were a county-run facility, when you came to a county-run facility, it was because you didn't have any money to pay for something private. So most of the people who came to our government-run facility who had tuberculosis, they were kind of on their last legs, and we were just trying to make them comfortable to see out their end of the days. They were kind of the most sick of the sick as far as TB goes. Yeah,
that's more of like us going to the health department now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what it's like. Yeah.
A lot of these places had tuberculosis. It had Waverly had it, Trans-Allegheny had it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these places came to be when tuberculosis was really big. That's when they became popular.
Yeah. And, so that was, that's part of our music therapy program. That looks like it was a choir for Christmas. And I think I have that lady's name somewhere. This lady on the left. I could probably find her name somewhere here. But yeah, they did a lot. They did a lot with music therapy. Music therapy was introduced in the mid 20th century, kind of as a broader movement towards more humane and holistic approaches to healthcare. In 1955, and that picture may be circa mid 20th century, but in 1955, the music therapist was Jane Matney, and I wonder if that's Miss Jane Matney. But she really had a passion for helping the patients through music, not only listening to music, but teaching them to play music, singing, choir. But that's definitely a Christmas thing. They were really big on Christmas. Eloise actually has Christian roots, Catholic roots. When Eloise started in 1832, in Hamtramck, 193 years ago, it was ran by a Catholic priest by the name of Father Kundig. And he had a whole group of nuns. I think they were the Poor Clare sisters, if I remember the name of that particular order. But yeah, it was run by a Catholic priest and a bunch of nuns, and that's who ran it when it first started. And they kind of preserved that Catholic and Christian tradition through much of its history.
Oh wow, I did not know that.
I didn't either.
That's what I love doing these podcasts for. You learn so much more because, like you said, I'm like Eloise. As an investigator, you're like, man, it's kind of like a Pennhurst. You're wanting to go see stuff, and you're wanting to go be a good investigator and find activity. That's Eloise and Pennhurst and Trans-Allegheny and all this stuff. That's where you go to find shadow figures, you know. But I never knew they had like a music program like that. And like even this, like they had workshops and people working the bakeries and all that.
That's a bakery. Yep. That's a bakery. Yeah.
Now these are people that don't know about like poor farms. Pretty much people had to work for their bed.
Yeah.
They had to go work the farms. They had to go work the bakery. They
Mhm.
had to do that. Was that the same way in the asylum too, or?
It was, yeah. In years past, and this is still kind of either even a tenet and a modern approach to mental health care. But the ideal is if you could engage them and get them to do something productive, they would feel valued and they would feel as though they're contributing, and it would raise their quality of life. And that was one of the reasons why we put them to work. Exercise is good for depression. Exercise is good for anxiety, and you get them to work and they're out in the sun and they're getting exercise, and it really did wonders for their mental health. And also we needed the manpower too, right? We have this big, huge place. We need hands.
Right.
They chopped the firewood. They did the farming. We had so many acres of farmland at once upon a time. And I think we ended our farming operation right around like in the 1950s sometime is when we ended our farming operation. But prior to that, they grew all of their own food. They raised all of their own cattle. They baked all of their own baked goods. It was a completely self-sufficient community. It had its own zip code. It was like a city. It had everything. And they produced so much food that they were able to sell it to the local community and then use that revenue to help fund the facility. That's how big the farming operation was. And most of the farming was done by the patients, according to their individual abilities and things like that.
Right. Yeah. Their mind capacity of what they're able to do.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and their physical limitations and all of that kind of stuff was taken into consideration. Most of them worked somewhere between 4 to 8 hours a day, 4 to 8 hours a day on average, depending on their individual situation.
Got ya. That's not a bad shift, though.
Yeah.
You go and have some dinner, relax. I'm sure those patients were more of like don't want to say like high risk, but they were more trustworthy of being able to do that. And like, I know Trans-Allegheny had like, what's the word? Like high functioning people that could work the jobs, and then they had other ones that were just not
functioning,
not able to do.
Care.
I wanted to go over this picture. If you don't know anything about it, that's okay. But do you know what kind of procedure they're doing, or?
No, it looks like a phlebotomist, and it looks as though they may be doing an IV or a blood draw or perhaps a transfusion.
Yeah, it looks like they're doing a transfusion.
It may be. Eloise was really known for their kidney dialysis. In 1963, the very first kidney dialysis in Michigan was performed at Eloise. And it was only the second one conducted in the entire country. They became so well known for doing transfusions and dialysis and other kind of kidney-related stuff that the Michigan Kidney Foundation was aware of it and actually donated 2 machines to us.
Oh, wow.
So that's just another example of a lot of good that Eloise had done.
Right. I didn't know they brought out to the community and everything. Usually from like places like that, or they kind of just stick to their own. Yeah. Which that's a good way to get the community involved and, find out what's going on in this place, and then showing people that they're actually taking care of these people,
Mm-hmm.
It also gets the patients interacting with the public.
Right.
Like they have those social skills that they need.
Right. Now, were a lot of those patients that were like high functioning work these jobs, were they able to like get out and work, or were they kind of just there for their whole life? When they were committed type of thing, or?
Some people spent their entire lives there. But Eloise, especially like once our treatment started progressing and once we started having a better understanding of mental health conditions and how to treat them, we really tried to discharge people, right? Like We wanted to provide people with treatment. We wanted them to be able to recover as much as possible so they had a good quality of life and minimal impairment kind of in their daily functioning. And if we were able to get them where they needed to be, we wanted to discharge them.
Right.
That was our goal, just like a modern hospital, right? Like we want to get people well, we wanted to discharge them. And that was something that we really endeavored to do. I mean, certainly not everybody was in that position. You know, we had a lot of people who spent their entire lives there just because of their level of impairment. But we did try to discharge.
Do you know about how many people were discharged?
No, I don't. We saw, I mean, just tens of thousands of patients over. I mean, we were around for almost,
Yeah.
We just, like I said, we just celebrated our 193rd year anniversary. Yeah. We were still seeing patients up until like the 80s under the state flag. So a lot of people, tens of thousands of people. So it's hard to say. And back in the day when we were doing all of this kind of stuff, all of the records were on a paper ledger. They didn't have modern computer record keeping. So all it took was for one of these paper ledgers to be misplaced, lost, water damage. We had multiple fires on the complex over the years. So there's just not a lot of records on folks. But the state of Michigan does have a lot of the medical records for patients who were there. More modern records. I think in the state of Michigan, this is not federal law, this is state law, but in the state of Michigan, a healthcare facility is required to retain their medical records for 7 years.
Yeah, that's how it is.
That's how it's there too. Yeah. So yeah. But we've been closed to patient care for more than 7 years. So whenever we find the medical records that are from like the 1980s forward, there was some patients who were being seen there for county services even in the 90s. So those medical records are destroyed, but a lot of the older ones that are kind of more historical in nature are still retained by the state of Michigan. And they're protected. They're protected by the Privacy Act. They're protected by HIPAA. We've had some people say, "Oh, I want to go get these medical records. I want to look at them for historical reasons," or my great grandfather was there. It's just like going to any other hospital and trying to get medical records, right?
Right.
They're not going to let you have them.
It's a headache.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just because these people had passed away some time ago doesn't mean that their privacy and their confidentiality still shouldn't be protected.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, going into the hospital part of it, seeing the difference of being a full medical room to, is the most of the building like this now? More of like the paint falling off type or is there certain areas that are still really pristine?
They've cleaned the place up a lot, right? So I've only been there for about 4 years, and the current owner, Mr. Hambrick, he owned it well before I came in. He purchased it, and I may not be 100% on the dates. He purchased it somewhere around 2017, 2018, somewhere kind of around there. And when he had bought the place, a lot of it was like the photos that you had just shown. There was just stuff everywhere, and there was paint peeling. And he has really cleaned the place up a lot, right? He's gotten all that junk out of there, 99% of the junk. He's gotten like almost all the junk out of there. The first floor and the second floor have been like repainted, and we try to keep the floors mopped. It looks really sharp. But once you start getting to the floors higher, right, like the third, fourth, and fifth floor, you do see a little bit. It's not bad like that, right? Oh, and leave that picture for a second. One thing that I want to point out on this picture that's really interesting. This is one of the procedure rooms, or what's known as a surgical suite. We call them procedure rooms. But you see how it's on my right-hand side. You see how there's like an older photograph next to the operating table. Look at the stool, a little bench that's that chair, and then look at the newer photograph that's all peeled out. That same chair is still there.
Wow!
Did you notice that? Yeah, that's cool,
I didn't.
Right? Yeah. So that chair had been sitting there for God knows how long. But it, even though we do have chipped and peeling paint, it's nothing like what we see in that in that photograph. We have completely remediated the place. We have a certificate from the state of Michigan saying that it is free of lead, it's free of asbestos, and it's 100% safe to be in there. So they've taken care of all that chipping paint and all of that kind of stuff.
Good.
That's good. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So was all of their cell? I don't want to call them cells. Was all of their rooms like this? Like, were they locked in at night and open in the morning, or like was there certain levels of like functioning people had kind of like their own rooms, or?
So this is a patient care room that looks like it may be on the 5th floor. It's hard for me to tell. That looks like a 5th floor room. A lot of the patient care rooms kind of look the same. Those big heavy doors with the small windows, and the patients were, kind of locked in there at certain times. I don't know their exact policy and procedure. Like I said, a lot of the record keeping and stuff like that it's just been lost to history.
Right.
But I get the impression from talking to folks who have worked there and other people who have been around longer than me that even though those were the patient rooms, there's locks on the doors, it wasn't a prison, right? They were brought out of the rooms a lot. They tried to keep them out of their rooms as much as their security level or their mental health condition would allow for. We wanted to engage them in different group activities. We wanted them to congregate, interact, to socialize, interact, get them involved in group therapy, get them outside. Now, certainly not everybody was capable of doing that. But that picture that you just showed me, that's from D building, or that big building that you shown in the other. Yeah, that's the D building or the K Beard building. That was a psychiatric building. The 2nd floor, they just kind of did just different types of patient care. On the 3rd floor was women's services, and then on the 4th and the 5th floor was psychiatric care. And generally speaking, the idea is that the higher you got on the floor, like the 3rd floor, the 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th, they usually put the people with the greatest kind of daily impairment or mental health impairment and the greatest security risk were usually higher up. They're higher up floors.
Got ya.
So certainly not everybody was allowed to leave, right? Especially if you were first admitted and you weren't cleared, you just kind of stayed on the floor.
Got ya. Yeah. Now, this is more of like I got this wrong last week too. The hydro tub?
Yep, that's like a hydrotherapy tub. Yeah. Hydrotherapy. Yeah. And, hydrotherapy has been around for centuries. Long time. Certainly it has changed quite a bit. It really gained a lot of popularity in the 20th century as an alternative for some of these kind of more invasive treatments. But the idea is that if you could get them in a body of water that was either warm or cold, depending on what kind of treatment protocol, it was calming and it was relaxing. So a lot of hydrotherapy was actually used in lieu of physical or chemical restraints, in addition to providing other therapeutic benefits to help alleviate depression, anxiety, and things of that nature. It was kind of also more of just get them to calm down. That's better than having to chemically restrain them or physically restrain them. But hydrotherapy was used for a lot of different conditions. It was kind of just like a catch-all. They even used it for epilepsy for a little bit before they had a more modern understanding of epilepsy being something more neurological as opposed to psychiatric.
Right. Now, you have hydrotherapy. Did they do like lobotomies and hydroshock and everything, that type of treatments there? Or
yeah, we did do lobotomies at Eloise, and the history is a little muddled. The best that I can tell from my historical research, we did not do a lot of lobotomies. I think we only did like 30 or 40 lobotomies in total. The physicians who were doing the lobotomies, they did 5,000-6,000 lobotomies in total at different medical facilities and going around. But at Eloise, most of the historical documents suggest that it was somewhere around 30, 40, definitely under 50.
That's not bad.
Yeah,
and most of lobotomies were actually performed on female patients. Actually.
Oh wow. Yeah, we talked about that last week, and the doctor at Trans Allegheny did like 100 in a day.
Yeah.
With kids, women, kids, men. Yeah, almost 100.
Just like one after the other.
Yeah.
No sterilization. Just
nope.
Taking the same pick to every brain.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No. Yeah, that was considered an advanced medical procedure at the time. Yeah.
I couldn't imagine just waiting in line, not knowing what's going to happen, and you can hear the next guy in front of you. I'm like,
yeah. I wonder how they explained it to the patients back then. I don't know.
I'd be like, no, I don't volunteer. I don't.
Time for your daily lobotomy treatment.
Yeah. Oh.
No pills, just lobotomy.
So what was this used for? If you know, I can't really see.
I don't know. It looks like it has some sort of headrest in the back, so maybe a dental chair.
Huh.
I don't know, to be honest with you. I'm not even
I
sure what room that is. Yeah, I don't know. If I had to bet, or if I had to guess, I'd say it was a dental chair, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
Did they? I know at Penhurst they pulled teeth. Did they have to do that there for patients who bit, or did they have people who bit?
That's what I've heard, although I haven't seen any. As far as Eloise goes, and it may be out there, but I personally haven't come across any historical documentation to demonstrate that. But that's what I hear as far as like the oral tradition is concerned. Yeah.
You already did it. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna get more into
the dark pictures.
We got to the history part, and I mean, we could sit here and talk about for hours.
Almost 200 years of history.
But I want to get into more of the paranormal side of the night vision, the night part of the investigating.
Okay.
Do you guys get a lot? I know me working in a hospital and everything, having to go to the morgue. I work security in a hospital, so we had to go down there and read the toe tag and get the coroner to make sure you got the right bodies and everything. I couldn't even imagine how many people have been in these cooler boxes in this slab. Do you guys get a lot of stuff in the morgue area, or?
I don't know if there was actually a morgue in the cave. I mean, certainly there was morgues on Eloise. But this picture that you have, this is the basement.
Okay.
And I know 100% we had morgues in other places, right? Like the main morgue for the complex was in the carpenter shop. I think it was in the basement of the carpentry shop. And I have heard people say, yes, there was a morgue in the basement of the K. Beard building, which that is a picture of. But again, that's one of the things that I have been unable to substantiate through historical records.
Going through all these pictures, I was like, all right, I've been a hot actor for 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell the difference between what's the haunt and what's the actual asylum part of it. It took me a minute. I was like, no, that's definitely a haunt. That's a prop.
That picture might be a prop for the haunt. Because I know I might be. I think that's a more modern picture of our haunt build.
Okay.
I think so. It's what it looks like to me.
Yeah. I just saw the morgue and I was like, I mean,
that does look like a prop.
It means kind of in that time of the building, but
no, because you see them actually like they're the big porcelain tubs or the bigger metal tubs.
Yeah.
But they're deep.
So that picture that was just on the screen, that picture is actually from the first floor.
Okay.
Back where we have the haunted house, and at the time that was all administrative area. So maybe one of your viewers may be a little bit more savvy with some historical research than I am, and correct me. But I'm gonna go out and say I think that's a haunt prop on the first floor is what it looks
Okay.
like.
I call those a human cookie sheet.
But
it looks like
I kind of like the idea that you had to work at the haunt to prove yourself that you could work at the asylum.
Yeah,
just being a haunt guy. Like I said,
Mhm.
I've worked at haunts for like 13 years.
Yeah, because
Oh, awesome.
of the year, during the haunts.
Right.
If you can't handle the haunt, you can't handle the rest of the year.
Yeah. But yeah, I have hundreds of pictures. I can count 5, 6 of different costumes and stuff that I've done. And yeah, oh man, I've been to Penhurst 3 times, once to investigate, and then twice at the haunt they do, just like Eloise stuff. And it's in their administration building too. And like I've talked to people that have worked at haunt, and they're there. People don't understand when you work at a haunt, you're there for like 12 hours.
Yeah, for like 6 weeks in a row. It's intense.
Yeah. And like back to back. And
yeah,
they were just saying, because they had in the tunnels at Penhurst, they made it to look like a cave, and they had like snakes coming out and getting you and stuff. But you're still in the hall. You're still in the underground tunnel at Penhurst. You know,
that's cool.
They would say that they would hear stuff and like running, and they would be the only people there running down the little hallway of the underground tunnels. Does Eloise have tunnels like that connecting buildings, or?
It did, yeah. It had a lot of tunnels. There was tunnels going from just about every building on campus. Some of the more notable tunnels were connecting the N building, known as Kelly Hall, one of our infirmaries, that connected to the O building, which was the Wayne County General Hospital, and then that also connected to the Walter P. Reuther Psychiatric facility. So those are some of the more notable tunnels that people kind of think of. But there was tunnels underneath all the buildings. And I know like the term tunnel has like this ominous connotation with the word tunnel. Like it's I don't know. I think of just like this dirt tube that goes out. But it was just a hallway in the basement. Like I've seen pictures of their tunnels from back in the day, and you would never know. Just walking, you're just in a hallway in the basement. It was tiled, there was heat, there was water, there was everything. It was a full infrastructure. So
even the hospital that I worked at here, which I worked at the same hospital that I was born in. So
that's cool.
You go down to the basement, like that's where like all the doctors' offices, like their little office, like the morgue and the cafeteria was down in the basement and everything. Yeah, you would never know. It's just another part of the hospital.
Yeah.
But like maybe it's just the claustrophobia of it now. It's so dark, and maybe that's what gets people in tunnels. I love being in the tunnels personally.
No,
not Sarah. Sarah's out.
yeah.
Sarah's always out.
When it comes to dark, creepy places,
Sarah doesn't do the dark and creepy places.
I've been in the tunnels. I've been in the tunnels underneath Eloise. As far as I can go, most of them they filled in, and you can't get to them anymore. But that underneath the D building or the K Beard building, the building that people kind of think of when they think of Eloise, but those tunnels are still under there. But I was only able to walk through, I think I maybe got like 20, 30 yards down the tunnel, and there was just so much standing water I couldn't go any further.
Right.
But it's definitely creepy down there for sure.
What kind of activity do you get down in the tunnels?
I haven't really done much investigating at all down. I've done a little bit of investigating down in the basement. And me personally, I really haven't had much activity in the basement. I've never done any actual investigating in the tunnel itself. Like I said, I could only get like 20 yards down, maybe tops, 30 at most. And it's cold, it's wet, standing water. It's not a place I want to hang out. I do most of my investigation is usually between the floors 2, 3, 4, and 5 is where I spend most of the time investigating.
I mean, when you have that much space, you don't really need to go down in the tunnel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, which is, before we get into all the pictures you sent me, because we have a lot of them. They're so cool. I love these pictures. This is the part that Sarah doesn't get to see any of these pictures.
Yeah, I did. You sent them to me this time.
Oh, you actually looked this time?
I actually looked this time.
She usually doesn't look at the pictures, so it's usually a brand new picture. But what is, when you go and do these, what level do you like the most of investigating wise?
You mean which floor do I like the best?
Oh yeah, which floor do you like investigating more?
I like the 5th floor. The 5th floor is the floor that I enjoy the most. Now, I've had experiences on all of the floors, but I have had probably like the most like kind of like active kind of stuff on the 5th. So there's, like I said, there's some parts in the building that we don't let the public in just because of safety reasons. And there's one part on the 5th floor where guests are not allowed to go just because of safety concerns. And that is the part that I like to investigate. I have heard, and I've had other people up there with me who have heard the same thing. So I know it's not like in my head, but we've had doors rattle in the frame. We've heard whispering. I mean, that was what had gotten me down there, because we were like in a part that we were allowed in. And I was with a group of like 3 or 4 other people, and all of us were hearing whispering and voices coming from this other area.
Oh, wow.
And then we had walked down to the other area. And when we were walking through that spot, one of the doors in the frame started rattling back and forth. And then when we got to the part where there was voices and whispers, the voices,
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I was going to say, oh, there you are. You're back.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Yeah, we're here.
Okay, cool.
I think we lost internet for like a second.
This always happens every time we talk about a really haunted place.
When we start talking about
the ghosts,
when we start talking,
it is tradition at this point.
It's not when we're talking about the history. It's when we start getting into the paranormal part.
Is that a pattern on your show?
Yeah.
Does that happen?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It's tradition at this point. Congratulations, you're part of it.
Your fancy filter background is gone, by the way.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
I can see
you get to see. Oh no, you get to see our old banner. Nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways.
Yeah,
we'll keep it for nostalgia wise. But I didn't even realize that until you said it. Now some of these pictures, was it some of the pictures that you've taken investigating, or is it people that take these pictures and send it to you?
I'm not a picture guy. All of these pictures that were taken, like most of them, like 9 out of 10 of them were taken by fellow investigators.
Okay.
There's a handful of pictures in there that were taken by guests, and I might be able to point out which is which as we look through them. But even for like family functions, I'm a terrible picture taker. Like that's just kind of not my thing. And it's the same for paranormal investigating. I'm so busy, just trying to like get in touch with the energy and feel the energy. And I do like to use other equipment. Like I'm a big fan of flashlight techniques. I love my K2s. I love spirit boxes and doing SD sessions.
Yeah.
I love REM pods, cat balls. So I just kind of feel as though I'm so busy with this other equipment, or like mentally trying to get in touch with the different energies and the vibrations, that I kind of don't take pictures. Maybe I should take more pictures, right? I might have more cool stories, but it's just not something that I've done.
Being the lead investigator of our team, trying to show her she's still learning this investigation wise. You are, don't look at me like that. So like showing her, she's getting really good at it. She's all right. But yeah, like you said, you're busy, focused on that. I don't take a lot of pictures either.
I try to.
Yeah, she's more of the picture person.
I'll take pictures and then I'll forget to bring my phone back out later on because I'm having fun.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a guy thing. I don't know, right? Who knows?
I have cameras that can take pictures, and
I'm also the one that
know.
feels stuff. So when I feel something's around me, I'm gonna take out my phone and take pictures because you never know if you're gonna catch something.
Yeah, she's our little bloodhound.
Okay, are you clairsentient?
I'm sensitive.
More of like a medium-ish.
Yeah, I'm an empath, so I'm more open to it.
That's definitely a valuable skill to have.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I'm more of the tech guy, and I kind of just follow her with all my tools.
He goes to places.
You need all these skills, you know.
Yeah.
I point out where I don't want to go, and I say, "Good, you go up there. Bye.
Bye. See ya.
See you later. I'll watch from downstairs."
Yeah, just watch the cameras. You'll be okay.
I'll let you know if I see something.
But I want to get into some of these pictures because the one I was not expecting.
Yeah, that would be fun.
So, do you guys? I'm not a real big orb guy. Is that?
I know.
That's pretty. I don't. It looks like a ball.
I'm not a big orb guy either. You know, if I see an orb with my naked eye and it seems to move in some sort of intelligent way that demonstrates a pattern, to me that's convincing. But orbs on photographs, that doesn't convince me. I'm not saying that isn't something.
Right.
I just become increasingly more skeptical when the only orb is evidenced by photographs, right? I've seen like things of light like move in a seemingly intelligent way, and to me that's convincing.
Yeah.
I think I actually have a video from when we went to the school where I watched an orb dance around my screen right in front of me as I'm looking back and forth between in person and my phone. And you can see it dancing around the guy that was with us, like swirling around. You can see the difference between dust, insects, and that orb moving around before it disappeared, came back on as he was answering questions, and disappeared again.
Huh.
That definitely sounds convincing for sure.
And like it wasn't just dust moving through the light of the room. It was moving around.
Right.
It didn't have any wings fluttering around. Like you notice the difference between an orb and a bug flying around the room. And there were no windows open in that space. Huh. It was in a closet.
Oh yeah. No. Oh yeah.
I do remember that
closet. Video. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
No, we were doing the Estes method, and I was getting that orb flying around.
I was trying to see what this one was. I don't.
Yeah, that was part. That was just part of the picture collection that I had sent you, and that photograph was actually taken by one of our guests. So that's the telephone of a guest, but our investigator took a picture of our guest's phone. So it was like a picture of a picture, and that's and this is like one of those photographs where like, and there's a name for this phenomenon where like you may not see something, but if somebody points out a particular pattern, then you can pick it up.
Yeah.
And this is an example of a photograph that I am not able to discern a particular pattern or any sort of phenomenon. But if somebody were to point it out to me, I'd be like, oh, I can see it now. And those ones are less convincing or less compelling for me because it isn't like your eyes playing a trick or,
right.
It looks like
I don't know.
It looks like
somebody moved too fast.
It looks like a girl with her little ponytail and like the bangs hanging right there with her ears showing. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like tied behind you.
Huh. Oh, that might be too dark.
I'm blind. Make it bigger.
That's a cool picture. Is that what you see during these investigations in the hallways, or you guys do it in pitch dark, or?
So we do. We usually will start the investigations at 8 o'clock. So depending on what time of year it is, it's either dark or it's light, right?
Got you.
But a couple hours into the investigation, that building is just pitch black.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is no electricity at all above the second floor, except what is required for the fire suppression system. So you couldn't turn on the lights if you wanted to. It is very, very dark up there.
Right. Now with like old hospital and College Hill and everything being a hospital, with this being a hospital and psychiatric everything, do you guys hear medical equipment going off even with no electricity?
I've heard the elevators running. I've heard the elevators running, and I've heard the elevators ding.
An elevator doesn't work.
No, and like as investigators, we're always worried. Like we're skeptics first, right? We're always looking for evidence contamination. And one piece of contamination in Eloise that'll throw some folks off is, we also have escape rooms. And in the escape room, there is an air compressor that will sometimes run and sound like an elevator. There's also an air conditioner unit that when it kicks on can kind of sound like an elevator. But when I heard the elevator running, it was cold. We weren't running the air conditioner and our escape rooms were closed. There was no mechanical equipment that could have contaminated that evidence or could have resulted in that. But it was definitely creepy to hear that elevator coming up through the elevator shaft and then kind of make like a really faint dinging sound. But that's the only kind of like, aside from like whispering and things saying my name, that's probably the only other audible thing that I've heard.
And like I know Eloise personally, they're known for their shadow figures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you guys see have you seen a lot of figures your own self?
I have seen a lot of shadow figures. Yeah. The first time I ever saw a shadow figure, it was my very first season being a paranormal investigator, and we were up on the 5th floor. Have you ever seen the Expedition X ghost hunting show? So they did an episode at Eloise. If any of your listeners are familiar with that episode,
I watched both episodes.
Did you? So you remember when they were rappelling down that elevator shaft?
Yeah.
So it was that elevator. I was on the other end of the hall with like 3 or 4 other investigators, and we were looking down at that elevator, and all of us at the exact same time saw a shadow figure walk out of the surgical suite, go past the elevator, and then go back into another room, which eventually leads into that other area where we heard whispering and doors rattling. But that was the very first time I ever saw a shadow figure. And there was, like I said, there was like 3 other people with me, and we had all seen it at the exact same time.
Wow.
And I've seen shadow figures on multiple occasions. Most recently, just I think just a couple months ago, saw a shadow figure in that exact same area. So the 5th floor by the surgeon's elevator is a hot area. I get a lot of shadow figures up there.
Now, do you think that's more of like a residual thing from being in the hospital part of it, or spirits? Or
we do have intelligent spirits. I think I've been touched a couple of times. I think for something to reach out and touch you, it has to have a certain level of intelligence as opposed to being like a residual memory. We've also gotten some intelligent responses on spirit boxes. But that shadow figure, I guess I'll never know for sure, right? It could have been a residual, just like a replaying of some sort of like
maybe that was
print
one
or
of
something.
the main. Yeah, maybe it was just main walkway of when that hospital was open, and it kind of just that's where all the traffic was,
Yeah.
But this,
that looks like it's in the basement. I'm gonna say that's the basement.
Do you see it?
Yeah. Now that
Do your viewers see it right to the right of the column there?
Now, what I think it was, I know Destination Fear has been there, or was it Destination Fear or Project Fear? Anyways, like Dakota Landing and Chelsea and everybody, I know they've been there, and I do believe they showed this picture, or was it? We watched so many of them. Might have been Sam and Kobe or something, but I've seen this picture where they show it's like a nurse standing right next to the column, right?
Yeah,
that's what it looks like. A little white, the white uniform and the white hat, and
there's been a lot of good pictures in the basement, like especially like the basement now is all cleaned up. All that equipment and stuff that you see there, it's all been removed. It's
got ya.
you know, because we part of the basement now is for the haunted house, and then we use another area for storage. So it doesn't look like it did in that photograph anymore. But prior to us like getting all the junk out and cleaning that up, a lot of people got good pictures. In fact, and that collection that I sent you, there was another picture of a person in the basement. And in the basement is where our kitchen was, just like you had said, the hospital that you work in, that's where our kitchen was at, in the basement. There was a dining room down there for staff and patients.
Yeah, there was
so a lot of activity, a lot of energy down there.
It was really weird because I worked at Bayfront, which was on the main level, and then the next hospital I worked on, it was weird going down to go to. I just smacked my coffee everywhere. Going down to the cafeteria, I'm still not used to going down to basements. I live in Florida. We don't have those.
Oh yeah, I guess not.
Yeah. So I feel like this is like another one of the, like you said, it's kind of an image when you say that you see something. That's how I feel about these pictures. Like it's kind of blurry. And like people see what they want to see with their own eyes, I guess.
Every time I look at this photo, and the photo looks like it was tilted, like maybe they had the camera at an angle. But whenever I look at this picture, I feel as though I can kind of see like a humanoid figure kind of at an angle because the camera's at an angle.
Yeah,
but it definitely looks to me like it's a person wearing a dress. Is what it looks like.
Right. It does look like a dress, and it looks like her hands are kind of like that on the side of it, kind of like she's just hanging out in the corner, like watching the baby.
I thought that was maybe some sort of a sash on her dress, but now that you say that, it very well could be her hands.
Yeah, because it goes all the way up to where the sleeve would be in the uniform. You know,
you're right.
It kind of looks like her hands are there, and she's kind of just watching the patients in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it looks like to me. I don't. But like I said, everybody looks at these pictures. And,
it's all different for everybody who looks
right.
at it.
See, that's another one of like
Blur.
That could be just them taking a picture and moving the camera a little bit to get that little flare on it, you know. Because cameras are tricky. You gotta, once you hit that button, you gotta stick on that one spot to get that perfect picture. And like, I don't know about this area. You said you guys cleaned up a lot, but like the floors can still get dirty, you know, walking down, a little dust comes on there and you move that camera a little bit, it's gonna catch that dust.
Yeah.
But that's just me being an investigator. You know, I'm like, that could.
Well, we're skeptics first, right? That's the hallmark of a good investigator, is to be a skeptic first.
Not everything could be. Oh, it's
like,
a ghost.
Like, oh my god, that's a ghost. There's two people standing there. I don't know. I try not to be rude about it, but like me doing photography and everything, and like understanding how
stuff.
Right, understanding how cameras work. Just from taking pictures for so long, that could be anything. Right. But this one, this one got me a little. You can literally see like from the waist down.
That looks like
that's it.
Like bottom jeans, like from the 70s. Yeah. That looks like a 70s outfit.
You know what it looked like to me? I don't. I want to know what you got to take on this too. It literally looks like somebody standing there and like leaned their head in the wall.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like. And that picture is either on the third floor or the fourth floor.
Now, was there a kids area in the part of the hospital, or was it more
not
of a
not in this building? So all the pictures that I sent you from our collection are in what we refer to as D building, or the K Beard building, which is the main building. You know, you had that photograph of the exterior of a building.
Yeah.
So that building was really just adult psychiatric care.
Okay.
They did have other buildings just dedicated for children. Not only did they see children that, you know, had various ailments and conditions, but they just took in a lot of orphans too, because part of our mission was a poorhouse. So
Right.
if a child was orphaned, or if their family just couldn't afford to provide for them, Eloise took them. But Eloise stopped doing that, and I apologize for not having the date on the tip of my fingers, but that didn't last long. Eventually, Eloise stopped seeing child patients. You know, stopped doing pediatrics, and all of the pediatric patients that we had, once the state started expanding its adoption laws, they had adopted all of those children out to local farming communities. At least the ones that had were healthy enough to do so. Because we wanted them to have some sort of quality of life and be in a loving family and not grow up in some sort of institution. And that's what most of the children who were there, it's because they were orphaned or because their parents were poor. It was not because they had conditions or ailments. So most of them were able to be adopted out. But in that building, in the K Beard building, or D building, after they stopped using that building for psychiatric care, it was handed over to the state. So Eloise stopped seeing patients there underneath the county flag sometime around 1977, and then they gave the building to the state, and the state continued to see patients there until like the early 80s. And then after that, it was given back to the county, and the county used it for community programs. And during their community programs, they did have some child services there. So on the second floor of that building, well after it was done being used for psychiatric stuff, right? This was mid late 80s, early 90s, when they were just running various county programs and doing administrative stuff. They did have like a Head Start program and some other child services. So there was definitely children up there. And some investigators do say that they're able to make contact with the spirits of children on the second floor.
Wow.
But I don't believe they were ever patients. Who knows? They could have been, right? But I don't know. That's part of the mystery. We never really quite know what we're investigating. Are they patients? Are they wandering spirits? Is it an elemental energy? Is it the ghosts of Native Americans who inhabited the land even before we had built on it? It's hard to tell.
That's true. Wow. This one.
Yes, I was there the night that picture was taken.
So is this two different anomalies, or is this a person and an anomaly?
So in this photograph, the only thing that I'm able to see is this human-looking figure that's in the doorway. And that's what was pointed out to me when the picture was taken.
You don't see? Yeah. I see two figures.
I see it looks like a shadow person walking through the doorway, but in the middle of the screen, it looks like a full body with a like black and white striped dress, pants, and shoes.
Yeah, it looks like she looks like she's walking out of the door.
Yep, I see it now. Yeah, I do.
Wow.
And the person who took this photograph swears up and down that there was no people around, right? Like I see the kind of the translucent figure in the middle of the photograph. Pointing it out. And it's clear now that I'm looking at it, but the figure that's in the doorway is much like darker in contrast. And when I first saw it, I was like, "Are you sure there wasn't another customer up there?" And she says, "Oh no, there was not anything else up there."
The blur looks residual, like it's almost modern, kind of like she's on her phone, like a woman on her phone, walking in heels.
It may have been. There's, just like I said, just because there's spirits or energy or ghost or whatever term you want to give to it, just because we encounter those kinds of things in Eloise does not necessarily mean that it was a patient or it was a staff member. It could have been somebody that died 10 years ago and their spirit is wandering through because they think it's a cool place.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Are you guys known to having portals there that you think of?
I feel as though there's one on the 5th floor in that procedure room, where I said that there was where I first saw my very first shadow figure. They came out of that procedure room and walked across the hallway. I feel as though there's one in that procedure room, but that's just like an intuition or a feeling that I have, right? So I can't substantiate that or demonstrate it, but the idea of portals is not something that's really discussed at Eloise. It's never something that's really talked about amongst the investigators or our guests. It just doesn't seem to be something that's really kind of in the tradition of Eloise or within kind of like the lexicon of what we experience.
Right.
So there might be, who knows, right?
Yeah. I was just curious.
Mm-hmm.
We just did that one.
So
there's 2 different pictures that I saw. I think it's the same window. Oh no, it's not the same window. I don't know where.
Yeah.
What I saw in that one. Oh, I'll just delete that one. So pictures like this, like I know when I go to Penhurst or I go to anything that I know that's like a haunted, like Eloise and Trans and Waverly, I look in the windows because you never know what could be staring out that window looking at you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen anything like this out of the windows while you're there? Or
I have, yeah. And the problem that I have is because there's, especially, I don't know if this picture was taken at nighttime or in the day, but it is an abandoned building, but it's also a place of business. So when I see pictures of people or figures in the window or phenomena in the window, I'm never really quite sure what to make of it. Was there a real human being up on the floor? That could have been, right? We have employees and staff who are on different floors at different times doing different things. So it very well may be something paranormal, but again, the hallmark of a good investigator is to be a skeptic and try to debunk. So if I was going to substantiate that photograph, I would want to verify that there was nobody up on that floor or in that room.
Oh, for sure.
But it's certainly compelling. Look at that. You can 100% make out a face in that one.
Yeah. But like even like walking next to a building like this or like abandoned warehouses or, because I know Detroit and everything, that was what's still sitting. It's all those warehouses are closed and everything now. And like, you never know what could be staring out, looking at you. But yeah, it does look like a face in that window.
100% looks like a face.
I don't, because then you can't see anything else in the bottom of the window. If you were just a person,
it'd be really tall.
It would be.
Yeah. So that window where you can see her face, it looks like that pane is broken out, whereas the other panes are still intact, creating like a glare, preventing us from seeing through it.
Right. Huh. It was just one of the pictures that were on the Facebook. I was like, oh, well, that's really cool. But there's a series of pictures that I want to show that you sent me. Now, I know being a location like you guys have with shadow figures, I'd be on my phone just clicking away, not even looking at where I'm taking pictures. I don't know if this is the situation right now, but is that just a random picture that somebody took and they ended up catching something? Or
I believe that picture was taken by a gentleman by the name of Ace. Ace is a very good friend of Eloise. He was one of the original investigators to start coming through when they opened it up for investigations. and I believe that Ace was the photographer. This picture was taken in the basement, in the dining room, right? So the basement had the kitchen, it had the main dining room. And Ace, I 100% trust Ace. He's a solid dude. He's a great investigator. And he tells me that there was no people, there was no human being in that room when he took the picture. And I 100% trust Ace when he tells me that.
This one's a little dark, but once you start getting more light on it, the more and more light you put on it, the more and more translucent it is.
Mm-hmm.
I know you sent me these pictures. I was like, oh, I want to debunk this one, but I don't know how.
There's nothing around it.
Yeah.
Even if you have like somebody on the other side of the camera with like a flashlight,
from them.
You see a flashlight behind somebody and you get the shadow.
You get the shadow of their feet.
Either they're sitting at the table or that's a very small child that they just caught. Which it kind of looks like
they're sitting at the table.
It looks at the dining hall. Yeah, it looks like they're sitting at the table waiting for their food.
Mm-hmm. Out of the pictures that we've looked at so far, this is the one that I'm most convinced is legitimate evidence.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Now, are these the type of shadow figures you see, or do you see just solid black ones, more shadow figure, or like
the ones that I have seen have been totally black that you can't even see through it. It's like it's almost like a living shadow.
Wow.
It's like in the shape of a human, but a complete absence of light, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. It's darker than dark.
Yeah.
Yeah. We lived in Pennsylvania, and I lived in a very haunted house. And we would have a black figure walking up and down our hallways. You would see him pass our door.
Oh, that's creepy.
The door handles would jiggle, and
wow.
He liked throwing stuff downstairs.
No.
See.
That's creepy. Sarah doesn't like it. She's like, no, thank you. She's gonna do a clearing or a banishing ritual. Let that thing go home.
I'll sage myself just listening to that.
We usually do. We burn some Santo after every show. Usually.
No, we don't.
Mm-hmm.
Usually.
Yeah, I'll do a little banishing or clearing when we're done.
Yeah, we should, but we haven't in a while. Yeah. But we have a couple more pictures, and then we can get to the question of the week. Which
that'd be great. I'm having fun looking at these
for
pictures.
Everybody in the comments, thank you so much for watching. If you guys want to watch more of our stuff, we put it here live on YouTube and our Facebook, but we're also officially part of Paranormal 24/7. Paul, he's the creator of Paul and Alice is the creator of Paranormal 24/7, and it's on, I always get it wrong, Roku, Amazon Fire, Google Play,
Android TV.
Or no, all the big ones.
Android.
All the big ones, right?
Apple TV. I think no.
I don't know. This is what we're officially on. A little promo for you. Mm-hmm. So go check that out on Paranormal 24/7. There's a lot of other podcasts on there. There's a couple investigators on there. It's good stuff to go see. So go check them out. And then you get to see our stuff if you don't want to go on a YouTube, which you should. Go click the like and subscribe button down below. But we have 3 more pictures that I want to get through. And then question of the week, like I said.
That is Hat Man. That picture
100% looks like a cowboy.
That picture was taken by one of our investigators. last season, maybe the season before. It was recent, just within the last year or so. That picture is taken on the second floor, down one of the main hallways that was after we had closed for psychiatric care. That hallway was used for administrative stuff. But as I mentioned, that photograph was taken by one of our fellow investigators who is extremely trustworthy. So this is another piece of evidence that I'm 100% convinced is legitimate.
Now, do you guys have any like popular or famous spirits that are like well known by people that come through?
Yeah, we have spirits that we've given nicknames to. There's on that floor, on the second floor, down the hallway, there is a room where we always get a lot of REM pod hits. But I've gotten some intelligent REM pod hits. We ask it to hit at certain times and it'll hit. And some other investigators say that they have been able to establish contact with a spirit by the name of Michael. So that has been kind of referred to as Michael's room. So he's one of our more famous spirits. Michael, yeah, we've had some spirit box sessions where they've actually given us the names of patients and then we've gone back and looked them up. So that kind of stuff. But as far as somebody like a famous spirit that we talk about or that guests talk about, Michael is definitely one of them. Michael's room on the second floor.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys know anything about this shadow? Does it sell you anything or set anything off? Or is it kind of just down the hallway and you see it and you don't?
Yeah, that's the investigator who took the picture. That's what they said it was. She had seen something down there. Some other people had noticed a movement or a shadow, so they snapped a photograph, and this is how it turned out.
Picture.
And I know that evening they were getting a lot of activity on the floor in general. And this hallway in general is particularly well known for shadow figures. This hallway on the second floor where we took this picture is always hot. In fact, we get so many shadow figures on this floor. I like to set up a laser grid because it kind of, you've used laser grids, right? It kind of that right. Movement with the shadows. So sometimes when we're doing our public investigations, I'll set up the laser grid. And when we do free roam, we'll have guests or customers or whatnot. They'll just sit in that hallway for an hour, 2 hours, just watching shadow figures.
I like using the laser grid with a fog machine.
I have never tried that.
You send the lasers out in the fog, and then
if something's
moving, you're going to see the smoke moving along with the laser moving.
That's an awesome idea.
Yeah, it takes a minute to get all the smoke out of the hallway and everything, but
right,
yeah. But yeah, you just take a smoke machine and you blow it down the hallway.
Because you can still see the laser lights.
Yeah.
You can still see the lights and them kind of dancing. But if you see the fog moving in the laser lights, you know something's there.
Yeah.
That's convincing, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
I'm going to have to look into that.
Yeah.
Because, the smallest bit of air is going to move that. But if it's going along with the lights,
right,
something's got to be
You see a shadow moving from one door to another door, or one wall to another wall, you'll see the motion going along with the shadow.
The air current.
Right. I don't know. I just think it'd be cool. A place like that with a bunch of shadow figures, it might distort them a little bit. Like, what the heck is going on? I don't know. But this is like another one where I'm like, I think I'd just be taking pictures everywhere.
Yeah.
And you kind of just normally don't see them while you're taking pictures.
It almost looks. So what I see is like a humanoid figure in the upper left-hand corner. It almost looks like they're floating. Are they floating? And then I can see another one in the bottom right-hand frame. So in the bottom right hand, I can also see another humanoid figure.
Oh, I saw the bottom right. Which one on the left?
If you look on the bottom right, I can see like a dark shadow figure. I can make out shoulders, head, arms, and then in the upper left-hand corner. So you see how like the frame of the window makes a cross, right?
Yeah.
In the upper left-hand portion of the cross, you can kind of see the bottom. And then in the lower left hand, right below that cross, you can see her feet. I wish I could point out on the screen so you could see it.
I kind of see what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So in this picture, I see two things, but the most compelling is bottom right.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, is that kind of like I said it was kind of just random pictures and just so happened to catch something, or?
Yep. Yeah, I'm thinking so. I'm not 100% sure who took this photograph, to be honest with you, but that's what my guess would be. And when people show me photographic evidence, like 9 times out of 10, that's what it seems to be. I was taking pictures and, just for grins and giggles, and I saw something. Every once in a while they say, "Oh, I saw something with my eyes and then I took a picture," and that seems to be less common, as opposed to I was just taking a bunch of pictures and, "Oh my gosh, look what I found. How cool is this?"
Yeah. I feel like that picture is really distorted too.
Yeah.
It was taken through a window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. In fact, I'm trying to picture what window that made. It almost looks as though they're looking out one of the orderly room offices, but I don't know for sure.
Got ya. Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's getting late.
Oh, excuse me. My bad. Oh, we got one more picture, then we'll do the question of the week.
Awesome.
Now, do you know anything about this? Like, again, it kind of looks like somebody's like standing there and they got maybe a camera behind them and they're just casting the shadow down the hallway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me. That looks like a shadow.
Yeah, because you can see where
like
brown.
Yeah, it looks like a shadow of a real person.
Right.
Yeah.
Looks like, yeah.
Even like standing
like
in front
while they're
of
taking a picture.
Right. Even like a UV light or even an IR light, you stand in front of those, it's gonna cast a shadow.
Yeah.
Maybe just not knowing your part in front of the camera and you take it and you're like, oh, holy crap. Oh no, that's me. Never mind.
Yeah, I've done that.
I've done that 100 of times. I'm like, oh, sorry. I'm in your shot. My bad. But yeah, that's, you never know. I like debunking stuff.
You don't know.
Yeah. But this is probably my favorite one. And then
Hatman. Yep. Those two are my favorite. Yep. We're on the same page. This one in particular is very compelling.
It kind of reminds me of the picture from when the people that we don't speak of was at Bobby Mackey's. The very first episode where they did Cowboy. So they were down in the basement and they got a picture of, it kind of looks exactly the same thing. A guy with a big old cowboy hat. And wow.
Yeah,
I love pictures like this.
Little country boy.
Yeah. All right. Question of the week. We don't have any music or anything. I'm sorry. Oh, no, we do got music. Does it not play now? No, I get no.
My impromptu music.
All right. So everybody that's watching right now,
you know what time it is
if you've never don't know what time it is.
It's question of the week time.
Question of the week.
The brightest part of our whole thing.
So what we would like you to do in the comments, we'll play this question and give your take on it and what you would use, and then we'll take our view of what we would use, and then we're going to ask Adam also. Do you want the pleasure of clicking the question of the week?
I finally don't have to take it from you.
All right.
Flashlight. You do so much with a flashlight.
So everybody in the comments, even if you're not watching live right now, you can still put what piece of equipment would you take if you did a solo investigation at Eloise Asylum? We already have your take. Just a flashlight. Is it a flashlight
You
to
didn't
use?
say if it was one piece of equipment or if I could bring the whole thing.
No, just okay. If you take one piece of equipment,
I'm gonna do a twisty flashlight.
is it more of so you could see, or is it more for you to use?
Both. You think I'm gonna run down the hallway without a flashlight?
I mean, you can't even walk down the street.
I'm done with you. Have a good week. Good night.
I personally like using cat balls.
Yeah.
You know, I love REM pods. I love our spirit box. I love using everything that we have. But yeah, I like using cat balls or the spirit box to do the S's.
Yeah, but that's not always reliable.
S's method?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess you can get more legit with the cat ball because you actually have to touch it.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying a flashlight because you gotta twist it.
That's true.
And if I'm alone and that flashlight goes off, bye.
You're not supposed to say bye. You're supposed to
Bye.
keep asking questions.
I know, we've done it
So what's
before.
your take, Adam? I'm sure you've done a solos in this place hundreds of times so far. What is your go-to piece of equipment?
I'm on the same page as Sarah. I'm going with the flashlight, but not just any flashlight. My favorite flashlight is a mini mag. Right, it's got to be. I like the Maglite brand specifically. The mini mag it takes the 2 AA batteries, and not just any 2 AA mini mag. The incandescent specifically. For whatever reason, I get more activity with the incandescent bulbs versus the LED version.
Really?
So and I don't know why. I wish I knew why. But yeah, so mini mag that takes the 2 AA batteries, and it has to be the incandescent bulb. And then with that, I'm going to bring a binder clip. And I like to put the binder clip on the flashlight I should have brought mine with me so I could show you on camera how I like to set it up. But I put that binder clip on the flashlight and it kind of holds it up at an angle, and then you can set it down. And it keeps the twisty head off of the flat surface and keeps it raised a little bit. And it seems to make it easier for the energies to manipulate that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring the flashlight. Not only can I can see because the place is dark as night in there, but it's also a great piece of paranormal investigation equipment. And I have more luck in Eloise with flashlight technique than I do at any other. A lot of flashlight activity.
Well, yeah, they probably know what a flashlight is.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about before we went live. Like back in like the 1800s and all that, spirits don't know what we're using. Like they don't
know what a phone is.
Yeah, they go over to this black box and hit that. That's gonna freak them out. I feel like they're not gonna want to use that. They know what a flashlight is. They know what a little cat ball is.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
And I got this weird theory about the flashlights because so sometimes when I've done the flashlight technique in the past and I was getting a lot of activity and it was turning it on and off when I asked it to, I would really closely look at the flashlight and try to observe to see whether that head twists or not.
Yeah.
And I cannot see it twist. So my theory is that the energy, the spirit, the ghost, whatever we're calling it, it is able to fill the gap somehow through its energy to fill the gap between those two connections in
Yeah.
And I think and again, it's just theory, right? A lot of the stuff we do in paranormal is theory, but I think that's how it's working. And I think there's something about the incandescent bulb that makes that energy easier to fill that gap and to create that connection to either turn the electricity or the light bulb on and off.
Right.
Yeah. We've seen a cat ball move.
Yeah, I told him about that. Maybe just thinking about that, like you seeing if you can see if it moves or not. Maybe next time that we use a flashlight or you use a flashlight, maybe mark it. Get a little Sharpie and mark where the black line, right where they drop the flashlight. Right,
That's a great idea.
off to turn back on, see if it mark that spot and see if it moves away from that spot or not. I never thought of anything about the connection part of the flashlight.
Yeah.
They might be able to use that energy to have enough energy to create the spark of what the light.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think about it like that.
Yeah.
See, this is why I love talking to other investigators, because other investigators are like, this could be. I was like, oh, yeah, I could see that happening.
Well, thanks for the idea of the binder clip too. Cause now I'm going to use that instead of it possibly rolling around on the table.
Yeah,
because that's a problem we have at the jail.
We have one of those little 3 tripod legs that has the microphone clip. It's like a little mini microphone clip that we use for the laser grid. I wonder if the flashlight would fit into that.
Maybe.
Might.
It's like one of those GoPro tripod things that you can kind of just stick them anywhere.
Oh, yeah, that'd probably work well.
And it screws. It has a perfect thread on it to where it holds a little mini micro, like a little drum stand, little drum mics. I don't know. Maybe we should try it.
We should
experiment. Yeah.
Yeah. We could come to Eloise and try.
You should. You should come to Eloise.
I mean, Michigan can't be that far from you, Dad. How far are you away?
A 3-hour train ride from my dad's.
I was gonna say, how far are you away from Illinois?
Chicago.
About 4 hours.
Yeah, it's about 4 hours train
That's not
ride,
that bad.
and then about another hour out to Arlington.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and, like I said, anybody who wants to come, they can just go to Eloise.com and all of the different offerings and the tickets are there. And if anybody wants to come out of town, if anybody wants to come out from out of town, like if a guest is going to travel out of state, we can help them coordinate lodging. We can help them coordinate restaurants. So we can help them get set up in the community to not only have an experience at Eloise, but to enjoy your entire weekend with other things. So that's part of what we're trying to do to help people out. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
More like an Airbnb type of situation, or.
Well, we wouldn't provide the lodging, but we are we're networking with community partners to help provide resources for guests coming in from out of town. That's one of the customer feedbacks that we've gotten from out of town guests is, I'm coming from New York or I'm coming for California, but I don't know what to do when I get to Westland, Michigan, aside from just go to Eloise. So we're partnering with different community establishments and businesses to try to help provide them with a more kind of tourism experience, right? You come to Eloise, you have this awesome experience. Now, what else can you do in the community?
Yeah.
Right.
So we're trying to help people with that as well. So if anyone's coming in from out of state, just check us out, give us a call. We'd be more than happy to help you to plan an entire weekend.
They definitely need food after that investigation.
Yeah.
That investigation.
That's what we always do. We always go get food.
That investigation hangover is the real thing.
Yeah.
It is. It's 100% the real thing. You're not lying. And there's a lot of great restaurants around us too. So you won't be
That's
hurting for
awesome.
food.
Yeah. I know I'm hungry after investigation. Use all your energy in that one focus. I was like, dang, I just want a cheeseburger.
And like you forgot to eat for 8 hours.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah.
Too busy.
About 6 hours in, I start daydreaming about food, right?
Yeah. You're just like, I'm hungry. That's usually when he knows it's time for us to go, is when I'm like, I'm hungry. Can we go get food?
Yeah. So is there anything happening that you would like to promote before we go? I know you promoted the investigation-wise, like events or anything that's going on in Eloise that you guys like to promote?
We have the Paranormal Lockdown on April 6th. That is a 12-hour experience where you kind of get to stay the night. You get to be in Eloise for 12 hours. The first portion is guided, and then the last half you get free roam.
How much is
also, I want to say it's depending on what kind of, there's different packages you can get. And depending on the package, it's between $150 and $250.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
Yeah,
It's
depending
really
on
fun
what kind of
outside.
add-ons and stuff you get. But EloiseAsylum.com is going to have the specific details with the exact prices for the exact packages. And we're also doing an event on April 19th with the Oddity Shop, and it's going to be Build and Investigate. So on April 19th, the guests get to come in. They're going to build their own kind of poor man's REM pod. They call it a sensor, but we're going to build like a poor man's REM pod. And then after they build their equipment, they're then going to be able to go take that equipment that they built and go explore the asylum with it. And those tickets are available on EloiseAsylum.com as well. And those are our two big events that we have coming up, in addition to history tours, normal paranormal tours, and escape rooms. And then, of course, the site is available for rental as well if you wanted to just rent the place to have it all to yourself the entire evening.
That's cool.
What kind of escape rooms are there?
So we have two different escape rooms. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember what the names of. One of them is called The Heist. And you'll have to forgive me. I can't remember what the name of the other escape room is. It's right on the tip of my tongue. But we do have two. We have two escape rooms, and they are absolutely top of the line. Hollywood level special effects. It's like walking into a movie set. It's literally like walking into a Hollywood movie set. It is absolutely top of the line. We have 3D projection imaging. Like I said, it's all like Disney World and Hollywood level special effects and set design. And it's a really cool puzzle. I took my kids through it. And I could not figure out how to get out of that gosh darn escape room. So it's definitely challenging. But one of my kids, one of my daughters is super smarty pants, and she was able to figure it out. But the group that we went with had a blast, and everybody has a blast in our escape rooms. I've been to a couple of different escape rooms on and off throughout my life, and this one is absolutely the best. The quality of not only the set design and the special effects, but the complexity of the puzzle and the storyline that goes along with it. It's top notch. I don't want to give any more details, or I don't want to spoil the experience, but it's 100% worth the visit. If any of your listeners are into escape rooms, for sure.
I've never actually done an escape room.
I know, I want to.
I've never done. I've kind of wanted to do one.
I like the escape room puzzles online.
But like I said, down here at the bottom, these are all the links that you can go to for Eloise. Eloise.asylum.com. This is their Facebook. And it has all their links on there right under the headline of Eloise. But I want to greatly appreciate you coming on, Adam. That was, like I said, I've been trying to get you guys for a year now, and it was well worth the wait.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad we were able to make it happen, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your show. Thank you.
Yeah, Definitely. Thank you so much for taking the last 2 hours to talk to us.
Yeah,
it has not felt like 2 hours. I feel like we've only been on. I feel like we've been talking for maybe 20, 30 minutes.
Go on until midnight.
Yeah, I try to cut it off at an hour, but depending on the conversation, I
know my leg's about numb.
But I want to greatly appreciate you coming on, and welcome to the Underworld family.
And I want one of them hoodies.
Yeah, I need merch.
We'll talk about merch offline. I also want to talk to you offline about your about what fog machine that you use with the with your laser grid. So
I
look forward to continuing this relationship. Absolutely.
All right, buddy. You have a great evening. And everybody that's watching from Eloise administration, everybody that works there, we appreciate you guys being there for people like us investigators, having a location that we can go to. And you gonna mess it up this week?
Probably.
Are you gonna mess it up?
Probably.
And remember, always stay creepy, friends.
I actually did it.
Hey. All right,
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Have a good night.
You too. Thank you. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.